show that to store it. Okay, everyone, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, maybe let's wait 2 more minutes.
And as always, guys, if you have any questions before we get into this, feel free to write them in the group chat. We'll make sure that we get to them. Also, we have our newsletter that's coming out in about an hour. We have some really, really awesome guests for next month for more AMAs and more webinars. So I'm going to use this as a shameless plug time. We have Kathy Pearl, who's the head of conversation design at Google, that we're going to be talking with at the end of May. And we're also interviewing 3 VCs now about how they're approaching businesses and how they think about voice in the future. So we're going to be sitting down with True Ventures, Canvas Ventures, and one other that I believe will be confirmed today. So stay tuned and be sure to sign up for those if you're interested.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's start now. Today Fix It is almost all about account linking. This is something that's starting to get some interest here. So I will try to explain the different type of authorization or and also a different way to access an API. Because this is mostly the use case for account linking. The first one is to get user information or to allow the user to access your skill without having to send or share with you any information, login information like an email or a password. Because yeah, of course you don't want to you don't want the user to have to speak out or spell out the password within your skill, and this is where you need account linking. So to explain that, basically it's something you add in your skill or in your project. I say skill here because it's something you can only do on Alexa side for now, and this is the block you are looking for, account linking. And what this block will do is it's like the permission when you use or ask for a user permission, let's say an email. Alexa will first send a card to the user, and the card is available in the Alexa app on the phone, or also on the alexa.amazon.com or whatever the country you are, to get access to some information. And the cards look like that. If they want, if your skill need access to full name, device address, email address, a card will be sent to the user, and the user has to update the permission here. I already did that, so but you can see here it's in fresh. Sorry, but basically I'd say that the skill required, sorry, name, email, and some information on the device. So let's start here. This one is a simple way to get access to an API. This is something that Kelly asked us to introduce or to explain a bit more access a smart device to trigger. Basically, the smart plug is a device that can turn on or off a plug remotely. And so this is the first, I will say, it's not account linking, but that's the first case you can encounter when you are trying to develop a skill that needs to access an API. And this is by using credential. So let me load that again. And basically here, you are sending, you don't ask the user, but you are sending your credential as a developer to access the API. So that's an easy way because you just need to send the information. It's hard-coded in the skill. So let's say, for example, here, Nicholas at whatever the email is and the password. And as soon as you set this information, you then will be able to log in, refresh device, or set the plug on or off. If we go a bit deeper in the logging process, we have some block here. And so this is the second step, or let's say, in fact, the first one. When you are trying to use an API, it's always a good thing to check if first an API is available, obviously, but also if some information exists regarding how to access this API. So for TP-Link, this is something we have already, at least this guy, Patrick Seal, already made. So we need to go through some code because there's no official way to do that. We will go through a more official way with other API after that, but that's something I want to explain to you because this is also something you will face when you try to find an access to an API. Not all API are well documented, so you may have to Google it and find some already made script that can help you to understand what you actually need. So I've made that work for the TP-Link, and basically here we need a terminal UID, a password, and a username, and we'll also send an app type, which is Casa. You don't have to understand everything here, but again, this is something you may have to do for some APIs that are not documented. But what this means is that you need to generate a terminal UID. And again, this is JavaScript, so the code is here. So that's a copy paste you can do in the code block, generating a new UID. And the post request will look like this. So this is the API endpoint. What you need, again, is in the body, you need to send the app type, the terminal UID, and the one we just met before with the code block, within the code block. And you need a username and a password. And that's what we've set in the setting block, with the set block. So for that one, it's Nicolas at whatever and so what this will give to us is an access token. And again, this is something that will be the same for pretty much all the API, but surely for the account linking. When you do account linking, you are waiting for an access token in return. And with this access token, you then can ask the API for something. And you do that saying that you are the user corresponding to the token. So the account linking will ask you to identify. It can be the developer, it can be the end user, the users that will try the skill. And with the access token that the account linking will send you back, you will then be able to do whatever you can do with the API. The access token is the key to enter the API. And it can be your key or it can be the user one. So with the key, and again, it's always the same thing. You have to authorize and to log in to get an access token. Then with the key, you can do the next step. And for us is to refresh whatever the device are on the user account. Here we are logging as the user and we are refreshing all the device available. So that's pretty much it for that first part. So how can I talk to an API if I don't have that much of documentation and without account linking? That's the first one. That's the first part. Go to Google, try to find some code to deal with the different code you have to do. Try to retrieve the URL you want, and that's a bit of work, and that's why account linking can be helpful in some case. So let's go to the second one, which is Google account linking. And for that one, you don't have to seek for documentation or do kind of reverse engineering, because you will have all the information you need. So this is another example. It's still about smart home automation. What we are doing here is using a skill to remotely make a call to Google Cloud Print, which allow you to print a document. So you can ask Alexa to print something. That's the way to describe that. So first, you need to create a project and generate some API keys. That's the first thing you always have to do with account linking. Go to whatever the provider you are looking for and the API you want to use. And in the documentation, you will have the information to create an app that you can talk to. And this app will have some credential that you will have to use for the account linking. Most of the time is client ID and client secret. Even if it's said client, it's basically the developer. It's your application that you want to use for the account linking. And then the end user will use that application to authenticate. And you will have access to, for this example, to the printer that are available on their network. Again, in the documentation, you will have the information you need. If I go to not the permission, I'm looking for the account linking. So this is what the setup of an account linking block looks like. You have the URL authorization, and you have the token URL. The first one will be used by Alexa to redirect the user to that URL with some information, and the information are the client ID, client secret, some scope. The scope are the, let's say, the scope that you want the user give you access to. OpenID is a generic one, and that means that you are looking for user information. OpenID is basically a protocol to grab and to authenticate the user. You can use only OpenID, and that will be it. You will have the Google account, email, and profile. But here we also want to access CloudPrint. So you have to set that in the scope. And this is something you can find in the documentation. You can do that for Google Map, for all the API that Google provide. And if you want, let's say, access to Google Sheet as the user, you need to ask the permission to the user. So you will have to add the scope here. But here, OpenID, profile, email, and CloudPrint will be fine for that one. Client ID, client secret, again, this is something that you will get from the credential here on the application that you will create. And you can see here, this is OAuth 2 client. And this is the protocol that Alexa can deal with. So again, the first thing you have to do is to ask the user to authorize the access of the skill to their account. And then from that, you will get here the access token, because we are mapping the account linking to the access token. And as for the permission, if this fail, if it fails, it means that the account linking has not been done yet. The user did not authorize or authenticate yet. So we are sending a message. We are saying, asking the user to authorize or to authenticate. The next thing is then after that you will have to basically post the token to the API endpoint. So for the Google Print, this is a way to submit the job, the print job, and this is what will generate the print after that. So let me show you what account linking can looks like with the demo here. I've put that here. You need to say, okay, you need to authorize and stuff like that. For demo purpose only, I've just said this message, but basically that means that a card has been generated, and Alexa is asking the user here to link the account. So it's look like that. It can be a bit different on your phone, but the principle is the same. You have to link your account, and when as soon as you click here, and on the phone it will be pretty much the same. You are going to a page to log in. That's a page I've done for the demo. Can be your page, and as we will see on the last example, sometimes it can also be handled by the provider or the services you are doing the account linking with. Alexa does that, for example. You don't have to host any page or something to do the account linking. When you click here, you have to log to your account. And this is what the scope is: manage your printer, and you have to allow Google to do that. And if everything went fine, you should have Google Print has been correctly linked or linked successfully. Again, this is something I've tested on French, but you should have the green message here. So this means that we've just collected the auth number. So if we launch again the skill, we now have the token here, and the document is now printing to the first printer I have on my list, just because this is what I've done in the skill. But you can also call, make an API call to fetch all the printer available, ask the user to choose on which one they want to print the document and stuff like that. The last one is when everything went well and you have great documentation, and also you don't need to host anything on your hand. And that's the case for Philips Hue. They made lights, bulb, and stuff like that that you can use with Alexa and other devices. And here they have, in the documentation, you have everything you need to set your account linking. So again, in your let's go to the skill here while it's loading. This is the first URL you need in your account linking block, the auth. So this is the URL that will be sent, where the user will be sent to. Then, and you will see that a lot if you do account linking. The first one is an authorize, and the second one is the token. That makes sense because first you need to authorize, and then you grab the token. So each time you simply need to copy and paste the information to your account linking information. So here we have the URL that you've seen in the documentation, the second one to grab the token. And again, this is what it will look like when you launch that. You know what? Let's stop this. I've already authorized the skill here. I want to show you what's happened when you don't when you are not authorized yet. So let's do that again. Okay, please auth, and you have also a message from Alexa asking the user to authenticate. Let's go back here, or on your Alexa app on your phone. But this is to show you how this account linking is handled by Philips Hue. So you are not going, you don't have to, again, to make a separate website or a page or a backend to handle anything. This is all dealt by the meethue.com or the API. And it's just asking if Voiceflow U is requesting access. Do you trust this application? And if you say yes, you will return to the Alexa store and saying that the linking, the account linking went fine. And if you launch the skill again, you will now be authenticate. And yeah, so if you ask for the fire, the light will go to yellow. You can ask for the snow. Again, sorry, all this is in French because I had to test that on a device linked into a French account, but you get the idea here. You can ask for sunset, stuff like that. And for each of this kind of, for all the video, you have different color sets to your Philips Hue bulb. So this is also, this can be integrated in the, for example, let's say a game. If the user answer correctly, you can set the light to green. If it's wrong, you can set a light to a red. But it's, I mean, you can do a lot of stuff with this with the Philips Hue API. By the way, this is something that is fully integrated in the Alexa device by default. So if you are looking to make a skill that just switch on or off the light, you should rethink of what you really want to do, because I don't think the user will launch your skill to turn off a light if the same thing can be already be done natively by the device. So you have to add some interaction and interactivity with that. That's why I was talking about games, for example, like the Jeopardy, where the user can answer and you set the light regarding the answer. That can be also something interesting to use if you have a skill that tells story to the kids. You can set the level of the light. You can dim the light, for example, and turn that on the blue or any color regarding the story, what the story is about. So this is something that can be interesting to do. I've also, so first, do you have any question regarding account linking, or do you want any more information on something? I know that's an easy subject, so do not hesitate if you have any question on that.
Is there a list of like the Voiceflow friendly services like TP-Link, SmartLink, and the Philips Hue or anything like that that's a little more friendly to use, or they're all just kind of hunt and find?
No, we don't have a list. We have some. We've already made some skill that works fine with some API. I can make a short list for API that are easy to use, but not really. Most of the time is the creator or the developer has to search for an API. But if they have an API, there are a good chance that you can talk to that with Voiceflow, because that's the principle or the main goal of an API. Just be available for your system to talk to.
Thank you. Yeah, once we get up to speed with one, I guess it makes a lot more sense and things click a little easier on our own. Cool.
One thing I want to also to share with you, most of the time when you are using account linking, the provider asks you for a callback URL. And this URL is where, that means basically where do I need to send the token back? What's the URL I should send the token back? That's why you need to set that. Some can accept only one callback URL. Other can accept multiple URL. And this is something you will get in the build tab. So it's on the Alexa developer console. We have a documentation on that regarding using Alexa, Amazon, login. We have a full tutorial on that, but when you go to account linking at the bottom of the screen, you can see this is what we've set. We have set in Voiceflow. This is the account linking block. All this information. When you hit upload to Alexa, it will populate those fields. The only thing you need here are those URL. There are three. This one is for the Japan, and I think it's, I don't know if it's Japan only, but this one is for Europe and this one is for US. So regarding the local or the region and the market you are targeting, you may want to choose carefully the URL you want to set when you create the API on the provider. So I'm using Leila.amazon.com because I am on a French account for this demo. And so I need to, the information will be returned to the Europe endpoint, the European endpoint, sorry. So yeah, this is something you have to be aware of. If I, for example, if I take this URL and put the URL here, it will not work until I upload the skill as a US skill on a US account.
How does this relate to the voice first certification process, you know, like with Amazon? Like, since this
Sorry,
is like
say that again.
rich. How does this relate to the voice first requirement for skills with, like, you know, to get approved with Amazon and things like that?
No, you don't.
Turn on a switch. I mean, I know you're using your voice to do it, but like, it's not like a dialogue really of a conversation.
Is not account linking is not a requirement unless you are going to use a service that need an authentication. Sorry. So account linking is not needed if you are using the permission block and you are looking for user name, address, phone, everything you have in the permission block, because it's handled by Alexa. But let's say you want to log a user with a Google account instead, then you will have to use account linking. Does that make sense? So
there's no requirement, like, for example, if the device isn't working or anything, you have to tell them, hey, your device isn't working, you know, and how to get the device to work or something. You don't have to give them any of that kind of help or anything built into the skill.
I didn't get that. The device, you mean?
The Philips Hue or the
Yeah.
whatever you're connecting to.
Yeah, this is handled by the API. Yes, if it was the question. The API will do all the hard work. You just, you will have some endpoints to, and you have that in the documentation, to deal with light, groups, schedule, sensor rules. So you will have to make some conversational management to deal with that. But as soon as you want to trigger something on the device, it will be handled by the Philips Hue API. Yes, that's the point of the API.
I think Joel might be asking, let's say you got a return code, a status code back in a 400 or 500, something like that. Would it be a certification requirement that you handle those non-200 return codes, or is that kind of just up to you as the designer, whether you do or not? And that might be something nearer to his question.
The thing with the the API block is, yes, you need to handle the response from the API. So if, let's say, you are trying to turn on a light that is not available on the account, yeah, the API will return you a code saying that you have an error here, and you have to handle that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
But that's the case. That's not an account linking only thing. I mean, as soon as you are using the API block, you need to deal with what the API will return to you. So let's say you are using an API that give you back the weather for a city. You have to deal with the answer. You have to grab the information in the response and take what the temperature is, what's the I don't know, what's the sunset time is, and stuff like that. So that's yeah, that's something you have to deal with, account linking or not.
This is all really cool. The Internet of Things, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's something that the user asks for more and more, trying to deal with all the Internet of Things they have at home. And yeah, but again, most of those devices are already handled by Alexa by default. So this is more to go deeper in the customization. And if your skill is, I don't know, if it's a skill for that's live stream event, for example, on your Fire TV, then you can set the light for whatever color it is, or you can blink the light and stuff like that. Add some interaction here, or interactivity. It's just a layer that you add to the voice app. So the voice app, then the visual with the TV, and then the light, just to add something here, and to give an experience to the user that is a bit more interesting. But
there was a problem with the verbal passwords being used. Is there any place like somebody's got a website or they talk a lot about that, what they're doing to try to help with that situation or try to use? So like if somebody doesn't want to say their password out loud, what exactly are people actually having to do right now?
If the user speak the password?
Well, if the say for instance the skill needs the user to give them their password, so they can process the transaction or whatever. You said, like, I think the other day we were talking about, I guess with AMA, with one of the AMAs, that people were afraid to use their passwords out loud or to make banking transactions out loud because of the sensitivity of what they're saying. Anybody listening could get their access. Is there anything that anybody in the voice community is doing as far as how are they trying to resolve that situation, or what techniques are they using for when people need to give their banking information or things like that, passwords out loud?
So this is something I've worked on already. You have multiple choice here. You can do two-factor authentication. So you are sending a code to the mobile, and the user has to speak that to the skill. The other thing is you can mix stuff. You know that you have a voice personalization now available. So you can also check if the voice recognized by Alexa is the voice of the current user or the user already registered. And in top of that, you can, for example, send a code to the Alexa app. And so the Alexa app is linked to the user account. So only the user will receive that on the phone. And this code is a random one generated each time. So it's pretty much the same thing of it's the same thing of the SMS, but you do that. You don't need an external API to do that. You just generate a random code, send that as a card to the Google Alexa, and the user has to speak that code again in the skill.
So so the device stores the code, so to speak, whatever device they're using.
Sorry, what about device? What?
So basically, whatever device that they're using, you're storing their code or their password on the device, so to speak, through the permissions and things.
No, you don't store anything. For this example, the only thing that you are storing is the token. Okay. But the token can be revoked. That's the point of account linking. The user is not sharing any information with you unless they authorize you to do it, and they don't share any login information. They do that outside your skill, and then you have only access to a token. And some token can expire. For example, a lot of token only live for expire within the 30 minutes. So the user will have to authorize again, or you can use some refresh function that basically you ask when you ask the user to authenticate. You're also asking if, or you ask them if they want to authorize the skill to have an extended access, and then you will have a refresh token, and you can use this refresh token to generate a new token each time. But if you don't have a new token, you don't have access anymore to the user data, and you can't make any call. And same thing is that the user can revoke the access to their account. So that's why account linking is way more secure than a standard login password stuff. And about the code sending to the Alexa app, we don't need to store the code. We just, the code is a random one. It's just to check that the user that's launched the skill is the user, it's really the same user. Because let's say I have a skill at home talking to my bank, and each time I want to make an operation, they ask me for a security code. This is something I've set already. But again, if someone is on the same room with me, if I say that one or twice, the other user will have the code, and they can use that again. So instead of using this kind of thing, and by the way, that's a good way to let's say disarm an alarm, for example. You have some API that can control also alarm, and that's a good thing to use a code to disarm an alarm instead of just saying Alexa disable the alarm, because anyone can do that. And so you need to add more security layer here, but you don't mind if the code is known by everyone that it's in your home, but because they are not going to steal you stuff, hopefully. But for but for a bank or more stuff like that, you may want to use the one random code each time. So the user has to go to the Alexa app to check the code that you just sent, so you know that they are the real user. Because if someone else than me go to the skill, launch the skill will send the code, and I will receive the code, but not the other user. So it will not have access. It will not have they will not have access to the skill, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so that's another way to do that. But yeah, you can also use a Twilio and send an SMS or stuff like that. That's something that is used a lot today, even for Google authentication. You know, have keys that you can plug in your computer to authenticate. You can have a push notification on your phone. You can have code also generated that expire, like a code available for 1 minute, and they are cycling. Yes, this is the kind of thing you can also do that.
Are you, Nico, are you familiar with like when team sports play in a stadium against each other? When they go to, you know, like for example, in American football, before they hike the football, they say out a code, this is the play. And so everybody on their team knows what that means. The other team has no clue what that means. But, you know, maybe we could use something along like that, so you're not having to constantly interact and change all the, you know, interact with your phone or whatever device you're using, so you can get a new code given to you. Maybe that use a playbook.
I mean, you can you can set a word or a sentences as a password. But again, as soon as you are not alone,
right,
the other person will hear that. I mean, you can use Hakuna Matata that I used to have for to disarm my alarm. So each time I went home to disarm the alarm, I call the skill and say Hakuna Matata, and it will disarm the alarm. But that's fine for this typical use case. But for bank access, even if you set a password, yeah, if someone can hear that, then you're screwed pretty much. That's why you need to use code or something else. Basically you need to just check that the user speaking to Alexa is the right one. And an easy way to do that is with voice personalization. But again, that's not 100% sure. So you may want to add a layer here.
I'm going to do this and tweak it and show you what I was talking about. This sounds good, though. This is very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. I have also something for Hussein. I don't know if he's here. He asked me for, so the request was, I want to ask for a number of colors, and I want to check that the user did answer that in the correct order. So I've made a very quick demo for that, asking for 4 colors in the correct order, and we just use a slot for the color 1, color 2, color 3, and color 4. That's the easiest way to do that. The correct answer is blue, red, orange, and green. And we are using a code block to check that the color answer is with the heat block, color answer is equal to blue, red, orange, green. So that's the way to do that.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Thanks.
You're welcome. And by the way, I've also seen, so this is working, and you can use duplicate in that case because all the slots. So this is all the slot here. Let me show up the model. All the slot here are the same type. They are color type intent, and you can use that that way here because they are all in the same intent. But if you are using again like color 2 elsewhere, this may be you may generate conflict here. So this is an easy thing to do, but it can be tricky then after if you still want to use the color elsewhere in the skill. So this is something you need.
Yeah,
you need to
Nico,
know.
somebody posted on the forum recently about using slots in different intents, and I gave the reply that if they were in a different flow, it wouldn't be a problem. But I don't know whether that was the correct answer or not. Would that help if they were in different? If the intents were in different flows, would that separate them out enough so that it wouldn't get confused, or can you still just use, the one slot type throughout the whole project?
I need to double check that. I don't have tested it yet on the new version, but the last time I've checked, it's global. So even if it's not in the same flow, it can go wrong here. Yeah. But that's a good question. I will check that right after the session here. That's a good question.
It'd be a nice workaround if you can, if it does work like that. It'd be very helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very in a big skill. It's not. This isn't a query on Voiceflow. It's to do with Alexa, isn't it? But if you can't use the same slot type, more than one intent, that's very limiting in some ways, isn't it? In any substantial skill you're trying to create.
I mean, you can, if here, for example, because of this typical case, if I want to use a color again in a skill, I can do that. I just had to add. Let's say we'll take the color 1 slot, and I will use the get color intent again. But instead of looking for the 4 color, the user will only fill the color 1.
Yeah, so I can use the same intent. So you're saying
Yep.
I can use the same intent multiple times in the skill? In multiple
Exactly.
places. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes. What do you want? You don't want to do is create one intent with a number, another intent with, again, a slot number, and like a third intent with, just use the same intent for all the number slots you are using. Or does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Again, this is just a typical situation where you want to use this kind of slots multiple times.
Yeah, no, that's a good use case. Yeah, it is the limitation is using the same slots across multiple intents. Yeah, because then I guess you just get an utterance conflict. Was that
Exactly.
what happens? Yeah. Because it doesn't know which you've given a slot, but it doesn't know which intent it needs to pick.
Exactly. That's exactly the case, and you can check that on again on I don't think the one here. If you go to the build tab, you have so again at the left of the screen you have the conflict, the utterance conflict, to check when you have a weird situation where you are training that in the prototype tools or on ADC, and you type or you say an utterance, and the app acts weirdly or just ends. It's mostly because so first SSML error, and second mostly because Alexa don't know or just fill the incorrect slot or intent. And you can evaluate the model here, and if you type the utterance you want to check, Alexa will give you which slot she's going to fill with. And if you have an issue, you will here, for example, the slot, if let's go here, if I had another intent here, I say I will call this one color, and I'm adding the color slot, and I'm just using it here, even if I'm not okay. Select the get color. Sorry about that, but okay.
Colors.
Okay. Color slot 1. And if I'm using this second intent elsewhere in the skill, when I will check here and I say red, it might link that to the other intent, the color second intent, even if we are thinking that we are on the first part of the skill, which is this one. So yeah, that's a good way to check. So this is it's called the evaluate model, and the tool is the utterance profiler. That can save life some of times, at least a lot of time, not life, not that much, but times for sure.
Nico, in your check colors block that you have, the blue block that was on that last screen, yep, right down there.
Yep.
See where it says if color answer equals blue, comma, red. Can you click that? So let me make it so I can see it too. So you can use commas in between values instead of having to make a if this and then a if that and if this.
No, this is a string actually, and so you can use comma in a string. I'm just comparing what's the value of color answer to blue, red, orange, and green, because in my code here let me expand that. I'm hiding a comma.
Oh,
This
okay.
is me adding comma here. To just
So it's in the code.
if you
Yeah, so,
yeah, it's in the
so
code.
the user gave 4 colors in a correct order, Joel, and then what Nico's done is string them together to make a long string, and that's what he then checks, is that string, does that string match the string that's the right answer? So that's what his if is doing there.
Okay.
Exactly.
Cool. Yeah, that was
Thanks.
like a whole lot of reduction in how much you have to code out. Thank you. That's cool.
Nico,
Yeah.
Nico, just a quick question. I don't know.
Yes.
You hear me, guys? When you use intent instead of choice block of choice block, should I use capture or choice to get the user to be prompt to say something to catch the intent?
You can use both, but I'm more on the choice block. Just I'm used to the choice block because the capture block will generate a random name for your intent, and sometimes it can be hard to follow on the Alexa developer console in the intent history and stuff like that when you in the analytic when you check for what are the utterances that the user say to you, Alexa, when they are using your skill. You will have capture X, R, R, Z, Z, stuff like that. Instead of if you are using a choice block, you will have the correct name of the intent, at least the name you set for your intent. So, but you can use a capture block or a choice block, whatever. In that case,
Okay,
just remove in the choice block. Don't add anything. Just remove, leave only the else port, and the intent will be.
Leave only the else, right?
Yeah, you can't remove the else.
Okay.
You can't. So just remove any choice. Let me show you an example here. So you have a speak block. You have the choice block, and right click, delete, or drag, drop to the trash.
Okay, got
and
it.
Then and then use the add the intent anywhere in the skill. So you will have the prompt, you will have the message, then it will prompt, and if the utterance match the intent here, it will go straight to the intent block. So that's a way to handle like main menu, if you can say that. And each intent can be linked to a flow, for example. So this all the intent, because they are on the main flow, they will be available within all the flow in your skill. Which
Awesome.
is not the case if the intent was on another flow, on a subflow. Main intent on the main flow are available for everywhere from the skill, even in subflow. And if you add an intent in a subflow, it will be available in this flow and the flow below.
Under it, beneath.
Under it. Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. We're just a little over time right now, but be sure to go and check out voiceflow.com/events to sign up for next week's session of Fix It Hour with Nico. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to be posting a bunch of the videos from what we did earlier this week, so the AMA with Brayden, as well as the AMA with Kane last week. So please let us know if there's anything else that we can do, or if there's any other people that you'd like to see us chat with. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Nico.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Nico.
Yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you.
You the man.